Chapter 14, Section 1, Part 2, The Hopes of Immigrants, the second wave of immigration. As per usual, please have your Google Doc open so you can take notes and complete the homework based on this video and or the reading from the section. Scandinavians seek land. Remember, Scandinavia is Norway, Sweden, let's use blue, Norway, Sweden, and Denmark. Okay. Public land in America was sold for $1.25 an acre, which lured thousands of Scandinavians. At first, their governments tried to keep them at home. A Swedish law of 1768 restricted the right to emigrate, meaning leave. But growing poverty in Scandinavia caused officials to cancel this law in 1840. Scandinavian clergymen also tried to halt emigration. At first, they warned their church members against leaving the homeland. Eventually, though, even the preachers realized their words had little effect. Some of them even went to America themselves. In the United States, Scandinavians chose regions that felt familiar. Many settled in the Midwest, especially in Minnesota and Wisconsin. These states had lakes, forests, and cold winters just like their homelands, especially if you're checking out the color-coordinated areas of the United States. This is from obviously December of 2013 and January of 2014, but that's not too off from what it would have been in the mid-1800s as well. So a high proportion of Scandinavian immigrants became farmers in the Midwest region. So the Midwest ultimately is this area of our country. Germans pursue economic opportunity. Like the Scandinavians, many Germans moved to the Midwest. Germans especially liked Wisconsin because the climate allowed them to grow their traditional crop of oats. Some moved to Milwaukee, Wisconsin because the Catholic bishop there was German. In the 1800s, German Christian immigrants included both Catholics and Protestants. Germans also settled in Texas. In New Braunfels, a group of German nobles, that means people related to royalty, bought land and sold it in parcels to German immigrants. The town had to survive poor harvests and conflicts with Native Americans, but it eventually prospered. Germans also founded Fredericksburg, Texas, which still retains its German culture today. Immigrants from Germany settled in cities as well as farms or the frontier. German artisans opened businesses as bakers, butchers, carpenters, printers, shoemakers, and tailors. Many German immigrants achieved great success. For instance, in 1853, John Jacob Bausch and Henry Lahm, pictured here, started a firm to make eyeglasses and other lenses. Their company became the world's largest lens maker. You may have heard of them if you wear glasses or use contacts today. They still create Bausch and Lomb eyeglasses, contacts, and contact solution. Some German immigrants were Jews. Many of them worked as traveling salespeople. They brought pins, needles, pots, and news to frontier homes and mining camps. In time, some opened their general stores. Other Jews settled in cities where many found success. For example, Alexander Rothschild worked as a grocer upon arriving in Hartford, Connecticut in the 1840s. By 1851, only about 11 years later, he was running a popular hotel. The Germans were the largest immigrant group of the 1800s and the second wave, and they strongly influenced American culture. Many things we think of originating in America actually came from Germany. The Christmas tree, gymnasiums, kindergartens, and the hamburger and Frankfurter. Frankfurter, if you don't know, is a big fancy term for a hot dog. So yes, hamburgers and hot dogs that we have on the 4th of July really are a German tradition. The hamburger comes from Hamburg, Germany, and the Frankfurter comes from Frankfurt, Germany. If you don't believe me, look it up. The Irish flee hunger. Most Irish immigrants were Catholic. Protestant Britain had ruled Ireland for centuries and controlled the Catholic majority by denying them rights. Irish Catholics could not vote, hold office, own land, or go to school. Because of the poverty produced by Britain's rule, some Irish came to America in the early 1800s. Then, in 1845, a disease attacked Ireland's main food crop, the potato, causing a severe food shortage called a famine. The Irish potato famine killed 1 million people and forced many more to emigrate. By 1854, between 1.5 and 2 million Irish had fled their homeland. And here is an example of a healthy potato. Okay, and obviously the fungus that would have affected the Irish potato crop, right? You can obviously see the inside of one is much different than the inside of the other. And personally, I'd rather be eating this one than that one. In America, Irish farmers became city dwellers. Arriving with little or no savings, many of these immigrants had to settle in the port cities where their ships had docked. By 1850, the Irish had made up 1/4, that's 25%, of the population of Boston, New York, Philadelphia, and Baltimore. The uneducated Irish immigrants arrived with few skills and had to take low-paying, back-breaking jobs. Irish women took in washing or working as servants. The men built canals and railroads across America. So many Irishmen died doing this dangerous work that people said there was, quote, an Irishman buried under every railroad tie. In 1841, British novelist Charles Dickens observed the huts in which railroad workers lived.
The best were poor protection from the weather. The worst let in the wind and rain through the wide breaches in the roofs of sodden grass and in the walls of mud. Some had neither door nor window. Some had nearly fallen down.
Charles Dickens quoted in To Seek America. U.S. cities face overcrowding. Immigrants like the Irish and Germans flocked to American cities. So did native-born Americans who hoped for the chance to make a better living. Between 1800 and 1830, New York's population jumped from 60,489 to 202,589. St. Louis doubled its population every 9 years. Cincinnati grew even faster, doubling every 7 years. Rapid urban growth brought problems. Not enough housing existed for all the newcomers. Greedy landlords profited from housing shortages by squeezing large apartment buildings into small lots. Using every inch of square space for rooms, these cramped living quarters lacked sunlight and fresh air. Their outdoor toilets overflowed, spreading disease. In such depressing urban neighborhoods, crime flourished. American cities were unprepared to tackle these problems. In fact, before 1845, New York City had no public police force. Until the 1860s, it only had a volunteer fire department. And in 1857, the rapidly growing city had only 138 miles of sewers for 500 miles of streets. Most immigrant groups set up aid societies to help newcomers from their country. Many city politicians also offered to assist immigrants in exchange for votes. The politicians set up organizations to help new arrivals find housing and work. But that came for a price. They wanted the guarantee from the immigrants that they would vote for them so that they would remain in power. Some Americans oppose immigration. Imagine that. We don't oppose immigration today at all, do we? Just pay attention to the news. Some native-born Americans feared that immigrants were too foreign to learn American ways. Others feared that immigrants might come to outnumber natives. As a result, immigrants faced anger and prejudice. Prejudice is a negative opinion that is not based on facts. For example, some Protestants in the 1800s believed that Catholics threatened democracy. Those Protestants feared that the Pope, the head of the Roman Catholic Church, was plotting to overthrow democracy in America. Native-born Americans who wanted to eliminate foreign influence called themselves nativists. Some nativists refused to hire immigrants and put up signs like, "Help wanted, no Irish need apply." In cities like New York and Boston, nativists formed a secret society. Members promised not to vote for any Catholics or immigrants running for political office. If asked about their secret group, they said, "I know nothing about it." In the 1850s, nativists started a political party. Because of the members' answers to the questions about their party, it was called the Know Nothing Party. It wanted to ban Catholics and the foreign-born from holding office. It also called for a cut in immigration and a 21-year wait to become an American citizen. The Know-Nothings did elect 6 governors, but they disappeared quickly as a national party. Their northern and southern branches couldn't agree on the issue of slavery. In spite of such barriers as prejudice, the immigrants of the 1800s had a strong impact on American culture. Several questions you should be able to answer at the end of this video. What were the push and pull factors that led to immigration? How did the arrival of so many immigrants affect U.S. cities? What was the Know Nothing Party, and what was its point of view about immigration? And finally, how did the rapid increase in immigration cause conflicts? Think about why Irish immigrants and free blacks competed for jobs. Think about the growth of cities and the problems it created. Think of the prejudice of nativists and the religious differences that immigration caused in conflicts. Also, make sure your Google Doc has been completed as your homework and submitted through the Google Classroom, and we'll see you in class tomorrow.